welcome you here. If there's anything further that you would like to watch or catch up on that interview you didn't see, you can go to the Crystal Connections channel. It's a little house button on your remote control. Go on there. It says Crystal Connections. All our lectures and events except shows are listed on there. I just would like to quickly say that we have incredible lecturers on board, and we are not done. At 1:30 p.m. in the Hollywood Theater, she was his closest aide. Zelda LaGrange is going to talk about Nelson Mandela, and she was very, very close with him. Fantastic stories in the Hollywood Theater on deck 6 at 1:30. And 4:15, 4:15, we have Tom DeFrank, Stories That Never Made It Into Print, Part 1, from president interviews, from Lyndon Johnson to Donald Trump. Security will be placed outside of the Hollywood Theater for that lecture at 4:15. So join us for that. But now I have the complete honor to introduce this woman who does not need introduction either. She's been a journalist for 46 years, still a kid. She presented more live TV than anyone else in the world, more than 1 million minutes. She was a founding member of the global news network Sky News. She's received a BAFTA for her work and the London Press Club Journalist of the Year. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Miss Kay Burley.
Is this on? Yeah. Sounds quite impressive when someone else says it, doesn't it? Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming. But you don't want to hear about me today. The man that you want to hear about has just been regaling me for the last 45 minutes about falling off a horse, losing the front of his face when he was playing polo, why he took over Crystal, animals that he's been attacked by, and what he did with Richard Burton in the bush. Do you want to know? I bet you do. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Geoffrey Kent. Good morning. That's for you.
There we are.
Yeah. Make yourself comfortable.
Take the top of my coffee.
Absolutely. And away we go. Let's start with talking about your career as an overview. What have been your standout moments so far?
Sorry?
What have been your standout moments so far?
You mean on this trip or in the world? Standout moments, right? Okay, so standout moments. I was born. That's a standout moment, right? I was born by mistake in Zambia. Standout moment. A week later, got to Kenya, where I grew up. Standout moment. Then I rode a horse at age 2 and rode a horse all day long from then onwards, all right? Standout moment. Then I expelled from school at 16. Everybody should be expelled from school.
Tell them why you were expelled. Tell them why you were expelled.
Oh, I had a business at 16, and I was making elephant hair bracelets, which I sold all around Nairobi, which gave me more money than my father, which enraged my dad, obviously, at 16. And with that money, I bought motorbikes. And you're not allowed motorbikes at school, and I had a wonderful motorbike. And I was found at a local girls' school, taking a girl out my motorbike, and that was enough in those days to have you expelled. So that was it. Then my father was so impossible that I rode my motorbike all the way from Nairobi to Cape Town, unplanned, with a day's notice. And then it goes on. So many.
It does go on. And you play polo? Not anymore, but you did?
No, I played polo all of my life, actually, because I rode the horse all day long, growing up. And I really learned how to play polo at about 14 in Kenya. I went to the Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst, and I suddenly realized that nobody could stand people who came from overseas. I didn't go to Eton or Harrow. I was a little Kenya boy, but I realized suddenly that everybody admired anybody with a 2-goal handicap, and I had a 2-goal handicap, made captain of the Sandhurst team, and actually I never looked back. Polo was what I always led with. It was the best sport I had, and then I won the US Open in 1978, little guy from Kenya, which was wonderful. I beat Ambassador Will Farish, who had 80 horses, which was wonderful. And Rolex made me their ambassador, along with Jackie Stewart, Arnie Palmer, and Jean-Claude Killet. So that really changed my life. That was in 1978. I won it again, won the Gold Cup, then I won the World Cup. Then I was captain of Prince Charles's team, now King Charles, for 10 years until I had a huge accident in 95, which finished me off.
What happened?
Sort of. Oh, I had a crash in a practice game. Somebody crossed, and I just went over and over and over, and the horse landed on top of me, and everything was smashed. Had a coma, lost all my nose, rebuilt out of my ear, my ribs, and I was off for 4 months. But it was my third coma. The other two were little ones. This is a big one. And my surgeon said, "That's it. Call the Prince of Wales." Said, "You're finished. You're done." And that was it. I was done. Then I had to work out what I was going to do in 95. Big problem. Couldn't do sports anymore. So I decided, I know what I'll do. I'll go and work at Abercrombie in Kent full time, which is what I did.
Now, tell us, a lady, when I was walking around the deck, I love the wrap-round deck on this ship, amazing. A lady said, "Could you ask Mr. Kent, please, why it's called Abercrombie and Kent and not Kent and Abercrombie?"
You know, it would sound much better, I agree now, just to be called Kent and Kent. She's very smart. But at the time, we just lost our farm in Kenya. Independence came to the country, and all of our farms were taken over. This was in 1962. And I sat with my parents wondering what to do. And we said, we all know so much about safaris, let's form a safari company. But then what do you call it? And I said immediately, we want to be top of the yellow pages, like top of a Google search, right? And so we came up with Aardvark, AA, you know, but you couldn't make a great logo out of an anteater, really. And not very glamorous, an anteater. And so somebody said, why don't we call it Abercrombie? After Abercrombie and Fitch had done the big outfitting. In those days, they were a gun outfitter and a tent outfitter. And they'd done the big President Roosevelt trip, all through Africa for 6 months. And so we called it Abercrombie and Kent. That was it. And it stayed.
Tell us about what happened with Richard Burton in the Masai Mara.
You know, those early days we were collecting clients, and I was the first to build the first. I really, in those days, in the early days, everybody was shooting. Anybody came to Kenya to shoot. And I said, why are we just shooting? We should be actually taking photographs. Problem is, you couldn't take photographs because there were no lodges. So from my ex-military career, I came up with the first camp ever built in the world and used it to house rich people who could photograph. And Richard Burton was one of the first people to try out one of my camps. And he was a charming guy. I met him, first of all, in San Francisco. We stayed up all night drinking. Then he came, right, literally like a week later, flew with me to Africa, took him to the Masai Mara. And we were literally along the banks of the Mara River. And in those days, there were no camps, no lodges, nothing. It was empty. And suddenly a group of lionesses on top of a buffalo came roaring into camp, and they were killing the buffalo. And I pushed back the table, had all the drinks on, pulled Richard Burton down, and these lionesses killed this buffalo right in front of us on the campfire. You know, I mean, literally where you're sitting. And Richard Burton was peeping up over the edge, whoa, whoa, and the noise is incredible. The whole thing was amazing. And when it was all finished, I sent all my guys to try and clear away the buffalo. We got our land cruisers to scare off the lions. And Richard then turned to me and said, that was amazing. Could you do the same for Elizabeth when I next bring her? So they all thought that everything can be redone. You know, this is you press a button, you have a lion kill in front of your camp.
I do want to ask you about your involvement with Crystal, but before we do that, we bonded earlier about the Zambezi. Tell me your story about the Zambezi.
Zambezi is an amazing river. Obviously, goes through between Zambia and Zimbabwe. They made the big dam there on top of it. And I did one of the first, in fact, the first safari down the middle of the Zambezi, and you slept on the sort of sand beds in the middle, very, very rough. But you had to be very careful about the hippo because they charge, elephants would charge, and the crocodiles are lethal. And we were always told to make sure, keep your hands inside, do not put it near the water. So much so, after us, a Rhodesian farmer did it, and he left his hand in the water, and the crocodile came out and bit his hand off, all right? Literally, his wrist, bit it right off. being tough Rhodesian, he was being interviewed, and they said to him, "Oh, poor you lost your wrist." He said, "Yeah, but cross, thank goodness it was my right wrist." And so they said, "Well, why? Why, thank goodness, your right wrist?" He said, "Because I have my Rolex on my left wrist." Which is a true story, by the way. But that's how tough Zimbabweans are, you know. Well, you know, I lose the wrist, but thank God my Rolex is fine. But you did it too, no?
I did, yeah. I have stupidly canoed down the Zambezi and also whitewater rafted, which is incredibly dangerous. Unfortunately, I didn't realise how dangerous it was until I did it. I won't do it again. But you wanted to see whether your wife would pass muster, so you took a whitewater rafting.
Yeah, my wife's Brazilian. Some of you have met her, and you know, I thought she looked great in London and places, but I wonder if she could live my other life, which is a bit dangerous. And so I took her on this amazing, like, 4-week trip. We went to diving in the Maldives. I should learn how to dive. And then I said, "You're going to do a whitewater rafting down the Zambezi. This is the hairiest rafting you can do in the world." And we went down, and I put her in the back, which was safer. Of course, I was swept off in the first wave. But going back to that, I nearly bought a rafting company way back in the early 70s, because I thought this was going to be a very popular sport. And I arranged to meet the guys who owned it at the Lake Victoria Hotel at Victoria Falls. Have any of you been there? You have? Ah! And you remember how English it is. You have lovely sandwiches, cucumber sandwiches.
With the crust cut off.
Beautiful tea. Yeah. And these guys never turned up. I was like waiting half an hour, and I was getting fed up. And 45 minutes later, they came up. And I said, and they said, "Cross, Geoffrey, so sorry we're late." I said, "No, I've been waiting. What's the problem?" "Oh," he said, "the problem with bobbers." I said, "What?" They said, "Bobbers." I said, "You know, I'm a Kenyan, and this must be a Zimbabwe word, but I don't know what a bobber is." "What is a bobber?" "Oh, right, well, in this business, we have a few accidents. And in fact, every 3 days, somebody goes under the boat.
Me, I did that.
And they don't come up, and they get caught in the trees underneath the river, and they stay there for a few full days, and then they bob up, and we call them bobbers."
Yeah.
I said, "You know what, let's enjoy our tea," and I never bought the company. But I'll never forget the word bobbers.
Yeah.
That's why I saved it for you. You were almost a bobber.
I was almost a bobber, yeah. I got stuck on, because I fell off a diving stage when I was a kid and broke 3 ribs. Actually, I was pushed off when I was 11. And so I always have a fear of water. It's the noise in my ears. And so I thought, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to get over this by going whitewater rafting in the most dangerous place in the world. And I got knocked off the first wave, and I was stuck under the boat. And the inflatables, and they've got like holes along the inside. And I put my fingers up, and I thought, I could feel that. And I don't know if I'm this end and I need to go that way, or I'm this end and I need to go that way. But either way, I feel really tired and I don't care anymore. And thankfully, somebody grabbed me and put me on the inflatable, but I would never do it again, ever, ever, ever. And now I like being on the water, but definitely not in the water. Tell me...
You know, I'm the ultimate salesman. So having heard that, who would like to come whitewater rafting with me in Zimbabwe? Anybody here? Oh, some guys at the back. Oh, we have a few. Okay, you see?
You'll have to buy that boat.
Okay.
You'll have to buy that boat after all. You decided to get involved buying these boats. Why did you get ships? Why did you get involved with Crystal?
Well, you know, I have a wonderful partner called the legendary Manfredi Lefebvre, and he and I have known each other for almost 40 years, I think. And Manfredi, when he bought Abercrombie & Kent, he wanted to move into his old business, which was luxury cruise ships. And Crystal was there, and he went and bought it because he loves it. And he's crazy about it, and he's good at it. So that's why he did it.
What do you want your guests to say to people when they leave the ship about the quality and the standard of service on Crystal? I'll start. I love the family environment. I think all of the staff are sensational. The food is amazing, and the level of luxury is second to none. So that's what I always talk about. I only started cruising last August. I hadn't cruised before. And my son had a sweepstake. He said, Mum, you'll be off that ship within 72 hours. I bloody love it. I absolutely love it. I also love not having to unpack every day if I'm going somewhere else. It's like a taster menu. You go to lots of different places, and if you like it, then you come back. And if you don't, like, I hated Hamburg. Probably there might be some people in from Hamburg. I'm really sorry, I hated it. What do you want people to say about Crystal? That was a long question, wasn't it?
Well, no, I think it's what I said, because I was actually a little bit skeptical about cruising till I met Manfredi, because I'm an adventure guy. You know, I jump out of planes, helicopters, dive, cruise ships, but to actually go and sit on a beautiful big cruise ship, I thought, I'm not sure I can stand this. I'll get very bored, I'll get upset. Exactly the opposite. And I was telling my wife today, the food here is exceptionally good. Everybody is so nice. I mean, I said the butler comes, takes care of you, irons your clothes. You can do whatever you want to do or not want to do. You can go to the gym. You can do your circuits around the deck, which I did 10 circuits yesterday. I think that everybody should go back and say, I can't wait to go back, and you should get on this as soon as you can. I'm telling all my friends. I think that it's really worthwhile. And above all, everybody here is so friendly. I mean, I feel, you know, they're so nice and always so worried about everything. Even the captain here. There's a captain back there? I wish you were up driving the ship, not sitting there, but that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. All right. Okay. You sure it's all right? All right. Okay. It's all right. All right. He says it's fine. So I guess it's fine.
Do you have a favourite spot to unwind on the ship?
Yeah. And you're not going to know what it is. Because I'm so active all day long, all my life I'm running and jumping and things, I like to lie in my bed and watch BBC News with a cup of coffee.
Which news?
Oh, Sky News!
Thank you.
I was just checking you were awake.
For me, it's those big wingback chairs, you know, in the Palm Court.
Yes.
Looking out at the front and obviously following where we're going with a cucumber sandwich with the crust cut off. I could be up in Zimbabwe, couldn't it? Lake Victoria. Talk to me about how you made Abercrombie and Kent such a luxury travel brand. What did you have? I mean, how did you manage to create that brand?
You know, I look at it myself today and say, wow, I wonder who created that brand. Actually, it was myself. But, you know, as a young guy, I was Kenya-born, did that trip to South Africa, which was very rugged. I mean, I stepped beside the road the whole way down, had one night in a hotel. And that one night in that hotel, on that whole trip, really thought, this is amazing. Because I had a suite, somebody gave it to me, and I thought, oh, the rough and the smooth. And then I went to the British Army, I went to the Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst, the same as your West Point. Well, it was in those days, all right? So made you very tough. As a paratrooper, I did all that sort of stuff. And I then ended up being an aide-de-camp to a general, a very famous general called Major General John Frost. And he was hero of Arnhem. And he won more medals in the Second World War than any other British officer. And he was a paratrooper. And he lived incredibly luxuriously, but he was incredibly tough. And I thought, that's what I'm going to do with my leave. I want to be incredibly tough in the day, but at night have luxuries, have champagne and butter and ice and all of these things. So that was always in my mind. And as a polo player, so polo playing is very, very tough and rough, the most deadly sport in the world, more than Formula One, more than downhill racing, as I discovered. Well, you. But the horses are beautiful. And so this is very beautiful. And so I wanted to have something that had all of that in it, which was the rough and the smooth, but always ultra comfortable at night, enjoying the day, and service. Everybody who touched the client would be the most important people in my company, because they're the only people you remember. You don't remember me, but you remember your butler, right? The butler's much more important than me. So, for instance, that became my biggest thing.
And how challenging has that market become?
Well, it's always been a challenge. In many ways, I created the experiential market. There wasn't one when I started. But so I created that. But I was always amazed how people didn't want to do any experiential stuff. They wanted to be safe. They didn't want to go anywhere. I once asked an American in Harrisburg or somewhere, so what's the most dangerous thing you do every day? And this was back in the 60s. He thought for a long time, and he said, I know. I run an amber light on the way to work. Oh, wow, I got a lot of leeway here then. That's the most dangerous thing, lots of chance. So I think that the market always goes up and down like this. And I think what's happened is, what always happens is, they always say flattery is the most imitation of success, all right? Most important imitation of success. I hate that word. I hate people copying me. But they always do. But then I had 5-year run at anything. Then it'd be copied. Manfredi and I owned the first expedition ship ever. The Explorer, the little red ship. We owned it. And that was the first ship to Antarctica. The first ship to do the Northwest Passage. The first ship to do the length of the Amazon. The first ship to go to the Seychelles, because there's no airport then, and so on. But look how many ships are there today. So you just have to get better and better and better and better and better, and try and be on top of things.
I rather embarrassed myself earlier when I said to you, tell me, Mr. Kent, have you ever been to the Galapagos?
Yes. Yeah, we pioneered the Galapagos way back in the late 60s, early 70s. We had the only ship there and pioneered the whole thing. I went diving there, and it was amazing because there's nobody else. Because, there are lots of ships now. But it's still a very good place to go. Miami's changed, right? London's changed. Everything has grown. And so things have changed. But it's still great. For those who've never seen it, still amazing,
What are your 3 most favourite places in the world and why?
3 most?
Favourite places in the world and why?
Okay. Well, my 3 most favourite places in the world are those that I haven't been to, all right? Okay, so we'll get to those later. But yeah, so I always like to do something new. And I just did something new the other day. I did a diving trip all the way from Papua, Western Papua, Raja Ampat, all 850 miles, down to the Spice Islands, and all the way back to Burley. Amazing trip, diving. But if I had to go back to 3 special places, well, I'm a Kenyan, so Kenya's still amazing. The wildlife migration, by the way, has not changed. Still 1 million animals migrate, wildebeest and zebra migrate from the Serengeti. And you should do that in Kenya in September, or you should do it in the Serengeti January, February. Amazing. So that's one of my key favorites. Second key favorite, this is where it gets more difficult. I think actually, you probably gathered, I like to boast a lot about everything I've done. And so I love to boast that I've been to the South Pole, all right? Now, this is a very serious place. Minus 40 degrees, but I'm so happy I've been there, right? So that's good. Will I do it again? I doubt it, no. Actually, if the captain went, I'd go. I think
Will you go, Captain?
He's more comfortable.
He's thinking about it, yeah.
No. Hey, stay here with the butlers. It's much better, I assure you. Definitely. The butler's way better than going with me to the South Pole. What else? I think Antarctica. And, Manfredi and I were one of the first there. And when there was nothing, it's still amazing to see that. I think, actually going to the North Pole is very interesting. And the Northwest Passage, seeing the polar bears, that's different, really unusual. Polar bears, and you've got to see the polar bears quite soon. The habitat is going away. So I would go to polar bears now. So that's 1, 2, 3, yeah. India's great, South America's great, everywhere's fantastic.
Where have you not been that you want to go to?
Well, funny, I planned a great trip next year and just finalized it all when Donald Trump came up and announced all the countries that are not allowed to visit America. And those are all the countries I was about to go to. So it put me in a bit of a quandary this morning. What do I do? Do I still go or not go there? I don't know. So I haven't been to Eritrea. I'm desperate to go to Eritrea. I've been to Myanmar, but I want to go back to Myanmar. Myanmar is a beautiful country, and we have a lovely ship there, which has been marooned, for like 8 years now, but since the revolution took place. I haven't been to some of the stands. I've been to Uzbekistan and not been to Kazakhstan, some of the stands, and some more West African countries. Haven't been to Cote d'Ivoire and some of those places. Yeah.
How many countries have you been to?
About 168.
Not many left.
And traveled 17 million miles. Anybody else near here? No? The captains probably travel more miles by sea.
What is the best port that you've been into when you travel in by sea? Because it's a very different experience, isn't it? Arriving somewhere by sea as opposed to flying in from the airport. So for me, when we were coming out of where we were yesterday, this beautiful Menorca and Mahon harbour is stunning.
Gosh, well, that's a really difficult question.
I'm renowned for them.
I think, yeah, I've watched K enough, yeah. I think Cape Town.
Oh, yeah.
Cape Town, beautiful. Table Mountain, lovely weather, incredible scenery, welcoming people. Cape Town.
There we go. Second round of applause for Cape Town. Talk to us about Diane Fossey and the Gorillas.
Oh, yeah, luckily, well, yeah. Diane Fossey and I had a long, long history. It's in my book. If you go online, my book's called Safari by Geoffrey. And there's a big story about it because I was with somebody called Alan Root. I grew up with Alan Root in Kenya, and somebody called Richard Leakey. You probably heard of Richard. Alan Root and Joan Root were the most brilliant photographers ever. You'd have seen, they made all the early wildlife movies, which you would have seen. Alan found the gorillas first. He took me to see the gorillas. Then Diane Fossey came like a lost person looking for the gorillas, couldn't find them. So Alan actually took her in Rwanda to see the gorillas. I met her in the Lake Goma Hotel in Kivu, where they're having a big war again. Now they have wars every now and again, but they're having another war there now. And she and I had a huge fight because she said I could not take my guests to see gorillas in that stage in the Congo, on the Kahezi-Bwego, south of Lake Kivu, because she said gorillas should only be for scientists and no normal people should look at gorillas. I said, no, gorillas are there for guests to see. Through guests we create money, and through money we give to the people who protect the gorillas, the inhabitants, and the environment. And so you just want to keep the gorillas for yourself. So you can write books about it and befriend them, and nobody else allowed to see it. It ended up in a bitter row. I think we were having smoked salmon sandwiches even in those days. And I remember the plate falling. She stormed out, and I called up Alan and said, why do you show this woman the gorillas? I'm going anyhow. I said, go. And I did. And of course, I made a huge business out of gorillas. And we built a mammoth hospital outside Windy from nothing, from a fig tree, which I used to have one doctor a week come to, is now a hospital with university, with 60,000 outpatients. It's amazing what we've built. And all the fees, $1,000 to see a gorilla, go to the community. Not to me, not to anybody, to the community. And that's built a very vibrant community. So she was wrong and I was right, but I'm glad to say.
But more than that, I think James was telling me that, what's happened to the gorilla community, it's increased significantly, hasn't it?
Well, that one idea, when I saw President Museveni, who's still president of Uganda, by the way, but when I saw him in his early days as president, I agreed to habituate the gorillas in this place called Windy, if he would make it into a national park. He agreed to make it into a national park, and he did. He followed through immediately. The local Babwa pygmies were moved out. That's why I had to have the fig tree. That's why I created the hospital, to take care of everybody. So we had a national park, which I knew was full of gorillas, because I'd been there with Alan. So we went in, and I brought some scientists out to habituate the gorillas. I paid for everything. I paid every fee, because, and we habituated the first 20, then the next 20. And today, all these years later, my son built the first lodge there, like, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago. No, 40 years ago. Wow. Time goes on. And those gorillas today number about 460, 480 gorillas, mountain gorillas. So that one idea, from nobody having seen a gorilla, has turned into 480 habituated gorillas. Many, many tourists go there every year. It's a primeval forest, untouched. because it was made into a national park. And that represents more than half the world's living mountain gorillas. Just one little idea. Yeah. That was a good idea.
Yeah. How does it become more and more difficult to have responsible tourism?
You know, I think the idea, I've always been an advocate of high spend, you all know that, right? High spend, low yield. I never liked mass tourism. And I just thought that tourism should be, and I know it sounds very, very, maybe not the right thing to say, but I never believed in big, massive planes racing out backwards and forwards, because they're going to ruin everything. It's going to ruin the people, going to ruin the beaches, going to ruin the coral, going to ruin everything. And that's what sort of happened, you know. So I am a disbeliever in that, and I still like to do small, exclusive, you know, cruise ships of this nature. My land trips are small, very dedicated, and my clients contribute so much back to nature and back to conservation. So if it can be managed correctly, it's correct.
Tell me about A&K Philanthropy.
I started Abercrombie Kent Philanthropy actually way before people were talking about it, and it goes back to 1982, when I realized that we're making far too many roads in the Masai Mara. And I spoke to the Prince of Wales about it at the time, and I created something called Friends of Conservation in England, and he was the patron. And we launched, we really raised a lot of money around Polo, and brought a ton of money there, and I hired Miles Turner, who was the ex-National Parks head, and really created, and with the people, I worked with Ole Eltumama, the Maasai head chief, and brought all the Maasai in. So always involve the local people. Don't teach them from outside, bring them within, and create money for them. Say, this makes a difference. Every lion you keep means $1 a day, and that's what we did. And so we have built so many schools, which has all morphed into A&K Philanthropy. And if you go online, you'll see this is an amazing project we have. I think we donate about $2 million a year around different establishments. We have 55 Abercrombie & Kents, which cover over 100 countries. We do everything from health, obviously doctors. We do schooling, teaching. We do the environment, and we do conservation. 4 big things. We created something wonderful, bicycle shops many years ago. I realized from early on that who are the clever people in a location? The women. The women are the clever ones, right? The women. So let's give the women a job. And so I bought all excess motorbikes in the state. I'm sorry, bicycles in the States, in England, and we shipped them to originally, excuse me, to Zambia. And we created our first bicycle shop run by women. And they teach people how to ride the bicycles, they lease out the bicycles, and from that we built schools, and we got so many bicycle shops all over the world. We then built wells, mainly basically in Southeast Asia. Wells everywhere, so people would have fresh food. We then created fresh water everywhere. We then created schools. We then created food for children, because the children had to walk 10 miles with no food. So we created food for children. So it's all very practical, low-level stuff, not high-level. And everything you would all understand. And it works. And nothing goes to waste. It all goes to the project, because we do it as ourselves. It doesn't go to us. We give the money.
What advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs who wanted to set up a business like yours?
Yeah, because mine was completely by mistake. Yeah, it was. You know, if we kept the farm, I'd never have had Abercrombie Kent, for sure. So, I think, first of all, I thought about this a lot. I think an entrepreneur actually has to have it in their DNA. I think they actually feel like it. And most of them won't stay through school. They get fed up being taught. They leave. You know, look, Bill Gates left. Many of them leave. And I think
I left school early. Just
see,
saying.
There you are.
And I'm female. I'm winning.
And you're a woman, and you're female. Ultra smart women. Very good. And so I think above all, you have to have an absolute passion. Not saying, oh, I've got to get up and do something today. I got a passion, whether it's painting, whether you're a chef, whether you're a wildlife guy, whether you're a biologist, whether you're a snake keeper. You have to have a passion for it. And that's what I want to do every day. And don't discourage yourself from it. Do what you want to do. Then life's fun. I haven't worked a day in my life, honestly. Not a day. Never worked a single day. And it's getting on a bit now, but, because I love it. I can't wait to get up in the morning. Can't wait to do this job. And that's what people should do. And they should do it with enthusiasm, passion, energy, and never, 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 never give up. Because there's so many things that will try and discourage you. Money, finance, success early stages. Just keep on going. Just keep going.
What do you think, your youngest children, Valerie and Geoffrey Jr. are 8?
8.
8 now. What do you think tourism will look like when they're our age?
Wow, do you think we'd be landing on Mars? I don't know. You never come back. That's the problem.
Ask Elon Musk.
You don't come back. That's what I have a little bit of a worry about going to Mars. I think it's going to be. Many countries will come forward. I think you'll probably find a country like Gabon, which I know very well. More forests in Gabon than any country on earth. More gorillas in Gabon. The elephants, did you know, actually swim in the ocean in Gabon, And so I think places like Gabon will come to the forefront more. I think I hope, but the trouble is adventures have all, you've got all the queue to go up Everest now. That's really disappointing. And so...
have you climbed Everest? Have you climbed Everest?
No, I've been to Base Camp Everest.
Have you?
Yeah, but the next bit's a bit tough.
Yeah.
I thought Base Camp... Yeah, but the next bit looks a little bit hairy to me. I've climbed Kilimanjaro twice, right? So I've done that. But I'm not I've been Annapurna 1 and 2 and 3 with Prince Charles.
Okay.
I took Prince Charles up there. So funny. I was taking him up Annapurna 1, 2, and we looked way over the valleys, and there in the background was quite a guy who obviously doesn't exercise very much, was a bit overweight. And Prince Charles said, "Who's that?" I said, "That's the guy who carries your blood. He carries your blood plasma, so we better wait for him."
How does that work? Does he have his security with him at the same time? Does King Charles III, have his security with him?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
but the security are tough. They're ex-paratroopers. They're with you, all right? The security. But his blood plasma guy is a doctor. I think he was on Annapurna 1, but we were on Annapurna 3,
What's the most dangerous thing you've ever done?
I have done so many dangerous things that I sort of wake up and... I think playing polo was probably the most dangerous because I invited that 6 days a week, right? And had so many accidents. New knee today, three, being knocked out, nose replaced. Coma, 3 there. 3 collarbones broken, or 1 collarbone 3 times, 6 ribs, the knee. That was just playing polo. Leg, 1 leg and 1 wrist. Sorry, 1 wrist. But I think that I've been in a plane where the wheels didn't come down. We had to land the plane with no wheels. That worked. I've been charged by an elephant with Ian Douglas Hamilton. Has anybody heard of Ian Douglas Hamilton? He's a head elephant guy in the world today. And he and I were young. We were charged by a rogue elephant in Manyara called Boadicea, which nearly turned us over. The biggest one. Yeah, then I'll shut up. They go on forever, and so it's a little bit sad when I talk about it, but sad but good. One of the strangest ones was I agreed to take Ted Turner, and you all know who Ted Turner is, right?
CNN.
The founder of CNN, right? Not Sky News, CNN.
Not Sky News.
That's okay, but I can say CNN.
Yeah.
Okay, just checking. I don't want to upset Kay because there may be a few minutes left. And so Ted is one of my oldest friends and an incredible human being, man. Anybody who gives away $1 billion is a serious guy. And Ted did that. Anyhow, I promised to take him on a safari in Botswana. And he was taking his private plane. I had to go. I said I'd come with him, then I couldn't. I got to do something else. But I flew all night, got to Botswana, so exhausted. Came all the way from LA, took a private plane from Johannesburg to Maun, another private plane Maun to Chiefs Camp, Botswana. Okay, and I was so tired, and got there, and he just arrived, and we had a lovely dinner, and I hadn't been to sleep for like 2 days. And I said, Ted, let's go to bed. Could get up at 5 in the morning. So I went to bed. And I was going to take a sleeping pill because I was so tired. It would make me sleep. At the last minute, I didn't. I said, I'm so tired, I won't take it. And this is a true story, I'm telling you. So I was in a tent. This is old Chiefs Camp, way many years ago. And suddenly, I was going to sleep, and the door was sort of with some wire on it, started to shake, right? And this incredible cat noise, roaring. I thought it was a lion, right? I mean, shaking daylights out the door. I was in a mosquito net, right? And amazingly, I switched on my torch, and it won't see through the mosquito net. And so now this is getting really serious. The whole tent was jamming, so I hit the horn to try and get people around me. And then I got out of bed and got my torch and shined at the door. And there, halfway through to here, was guess what? All of you can have one guess what it was. It was 4 legs and a cat. What do you think it was?
A leopard?
Huh? No. No.
A leopard?
No. Huh?
Cheetah?
No. No. Wow. Obviously, all of you haven't had this experience. Thank goodness. It was a hyena. And they bite your head off with one bite. I'm serious. Hyena will kill you with one bite. Finish. And it was a hyena. And I let off that bad F word, and I thought, I've got to stop this right now. And I picked these big coffee table books. And I got these huge coffee table books, and I went to the hyena, and I slammed it down, and it finally pulled out. And then the teams came, right? And it ran off. It was a hyena. And if I'd had a sleeping pill, it was in. It was halfway in. Would 100% have bitten my head off. And before, I've seen it happen with Miles Turner in the Serengeti, a Peace Corps worker. I was with Miles. Peace Corps worker was in a bivouac type tent with a friend, and his head was sticking out. And the hyena came and bit his head off. One bite, finish, gone. And I saw it. I saw the body. I saw everything myself. And I thought of that. So that was my most dangerous moment, one of them.
But we have to say that for people who haven't been on safari, hyena get a bum rap because of Disney. They're actually a very clever animal. And it's females that are in charge of the pack.
Females are in charge, and hyenas hunt. People think they're nothing. They just pick up what's left from a lion. They hunt. And they are lethal. And they're clever. And they're incredibly strong. Their mouth, honestly, will bite your head off in one bite. Finish.
We're almost out of
Anyone want to go to Chiefs Camp? I'll give you the name of my town.
We're almost out of time. What's the one travel experience that you should have at least once in your life?
One travel experience? Go on safari. Honestly, I know you love your cruise ships. Go on a safari. It will change your life, even now. And you can go anytime. It's safe. It's despite all my war stories here. Actually, the way we do it now is very safe. And to go to Kenya, Tanzania, or Botswana, see the Victoria Falls in Botswana, see gorillas, see anything. That's what you should do. It's really one thing, definitely.
And Crystal, of course, goes down to South Africa. So I was on earlier on in the year, and we went on safari while we were there. And you can obviously get off the ship, do a couple of days, then come back. And what's the most memorable experience for you of being on safari? For me, it was being chased by an elephant, charged by an elephant, when my son was in the vehicle with us, and the tracker actually got into the vehicle, climbed over the top of the bonnet because he thought we were goners.
Where were you? Sabi Sabi?
I was in Sabi Sabi, yeah.
That's a good guess. Only because you told me this morning you went to Sabi Sabi. Just shows I was listening. That's good. I have had so many experience. I think probably, the migration, to see 1 million wildebeests and 800,000 zebras and all the lion around them, and the leopards get so full, and they're there with all the antelopes all laid out like in a larder, tucked over the branches, and the cheetahs running down things, and the wild dog. We never mentioned wild dog today.
Love wild dog.
They're amazing. Painted dog, yeah. They're amazing. So I would say the migration. If I had to choose one thing, to be in the middle of that, at the height, and then to get up early in the morning, like at 5 in the morning, and to do a balloon trip over the migration as well is spectacular. That's good. Okay.
Final thought, what's next for you?
What's next for me is probably a nice cup of coffee. What's next? What's my next big adventure? Yeah, well, I know what's next for me. I'm writing a book with Ben Mesrich. Ben Mesrich, that's exactly what I'm doing. Ben Mesrich, a very famous American author, New York Times bestseller. He writes books, Dumb Money, Social Network, MIT, and he wants to write a book. He's writing a book, and movie on myself. So well, hopefully it'll be a movie. But we're writing that, and that should be published in September in 2026. So that's my next project, meet with Ben.
Mr. Geoffrey Kent, thank you very much indeed.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kay Burley and Mr. Geoffrey Kent, thank you so much for being here. What an honor. I would love to take questions, but we're out of time. You need to eat. So he'll be around the ship if people have any questions for you.
Anybody has a question, come and ask me. I'll be around until we reach Rome, so lots of time.
Perfect. Thank you again so much. And I know you are all thinking what I am, that we should have quit school. Look where they're sitting. Thank you all so much for coming. Don't forget our lectures this afternoon in the Hollywood Theater. The Captain's celebration for the Society Party at 6 p.m. in the Starlight, and a wonderful show back in here this evening at 9:30, Rocket Man with CJ Marvin and this amazing entertainment team. Hopefully you'll be here. Whatever you choose to do, have an amazing day, and we will see you around the ship. And just to let our guests to know that you may have had misinformation from the website, tonight is formal, so bring it out. All right, we'll see you. Have a great night and day.